Hey, you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen. I'm Elisa, here to do another reading. When I split the deck, I got the Emperor and I got the Eight of Wands. So it's interesting because when I hold it up, it goes in the other direction. But when I'm looking at it, it looks like this way. Like there's a message coming to the Emperor and not away from the Emperor. So that's interesting. Or a change, you know. A change happening, maybe affecting, so the Emperor, you know, obviously is in charge of a lot of things. But it's like there's a message or a change coming to the Emperor. So like, maybe there's a change in the power dynamic. We shall see. Okay, when I pulled out my cards, I got, oh my gosh. So we got victory over something. We got temperance, which is kind of like a card of evolution, and it's a card of alchemy. You know, there's like all these emotions being passed back and forth between these two cups, but things are being brought into balance. And then we all have the sun, happiness, fulfillment, you know, abundance, family, everything. Like the best card in the deck. So it's like we have victory, things being brought into balance, and we have this like it's like a happy ending almost. And so that's really interesting, and it all has something to do with a message or a big change that's happening to perhaps some sort of power structure, or perhaps an emperor, you know, I mean, perhaps Vladimir Putin. I'm going to keep pulling cards and see what happens. You would think that he would be starting to get the message by now. It's crazy. But you know, the world is large. It's large enough for different points of view, that's for sure. Okay, so at the bottom we got the Seer. So this is intuition, following your inner guidance at the bottom of the deck. And then we have, what's interesting is we have the Eagle and we have many paths. So the Eagle, I mean, this is really interesting because the Eagle, it's like, can fly like high above everything and see like the bird's eye view from really high up, you know, but like at the same time, like the Eagle has like this very discerning vision and can see, you know, sort of like in great detail what's going on the ground, but yet can soar above sort of like the drudgery. And like in the shamanistic world, it's sort of like the eagle is sort of like in the spiritual realms, you know. It's like we have the serpent, the jaguar, then the hummingbird, and the eagle is sort of like the most like enlightened, you know. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's almost like, and also obviously if you're from the US, the bald eagle represents, you know, the US and freedom. So it's interesting that that's followed by many paths, because like the story with many paths is it's sort of like you can be doing the exact same thing as someone next to you, but be on a totally different path, you know, depending on your perspective. So like it gives the story of these two stonemasons, and like they're both laying stones, and like when you ask one of them what he's doing. He's like, well, I'm just laying stones, like whatever, you know. And then you ask the other guy who's doing the same thing, and he's like, I'm building a cathedral, you know, like he's become part of something larger than himself, and is like drawing inspiration from that, and also has connected himself with this purpose, you know, which actually might help him to soar above whatever problems he might be facing. And so this is really interesting also, because it circles back to this whole theme that's been coming up about this in like the readings recently, about this sort of like bifurcation of destinies. And I think that first came out in this reading. Well, I'll have to go back and look, but I'll put it up here. And the whole issue was, you know, like there's been this change, this shift that's happened in the collective consciousness. And a lot of it triggered by, I think, the pandemic. And so, you know, it's like we're going back, and like some people have like done all this work on themselves, and they're like re-engaging the world, and it's different, you know. And so, but they've come into alignment with the way things are. And so there's just like moving forward based on like the reality on the ground as it is now. But then there's other people who are just trying to hang on to the past, how it was, and they're like trying to hold on to that and just keep doing the same thing, you know. But the world has evolved, like it's moved on. And so so like that path like isn't working out so well right now. So it's interesting that we have this many paths here, and we have this symbol of freedom and of rising above, you know. So, and we have this, you know, victory that's happening, you know. So it's kind of like really, I think, reinforcing that concept. I'm going to go to Intuitive Night Goddess and pick out some more cards. But yeah, like I think it speaks more and more to this like beautiful destiny that's in store for the people who are kind of like have connected to this higher purpose, or, you know, something larger than themselves, you know. I mean, like Vladimir Putin, you know, like he had the opportunity, but in the end, he kind of like he just ended up amassing all this wealth for himself. And he wants to continue to do that, but he's kind of like, in a way, like reached the end of the road, you know, like he's used up all the resources. So it's just sort of like that path doesn't necessarily, you know, go where he thought it was going to go. Okay, so we have Four of Wands at the bottom. So this is like a solid foundation, you know. Underlying everything, you know. And then we have reclamation. We have the Four of Cups. We have revolution, and we have the Warrior of Swords. So this is really interesting, because this really speaks to a lot of chaos and a lot of conflict. Not necessarily conflict, but toxicity. I mean, this is like the card for the Devil in this deck. It's interesting because I think this deck has like a more positive bent on it, because it's like reclamation. And the thing about the Devil is it's just sort of like when you sort of do things that you're not like willing to acknowledge, that are wrong, you know, like people tend to sort of like disown those parts of themselves that they don't want to face, or that are like evil, you know, and so this kind of ends up being an Achilles heel, because you're, by like not looking at certain things that are like part of your behavior. So for example, Vladimir Putin and his like special military operation, you know, it's like he doesn't want to actually acknowledge that he started a war, but the reality is that that's what he did, you know, but he doesn't want to see that, you know. But in order to like sort of like support his like vision of reality, he has to like block out like these big swaths of actual things that are happening. And this is kind of like his Achilles heel, because he's sort of like making all these miscalculations now, because he's not really seeing reality as it is. He's seeing it as he wants to be. He wants it to be. So the whole thing about reclamation and the devil is, it's like, when you're not seeing these things, it's like you're kind of like owned by them. So in order to like reclaim your power, you have to like actually acknowledge these things that you don't want to see and bring them into your sort of like perception of reality, and like make adjustments based on actually the reality as it is, you know. So it's just like we have that, and we have the Four of Cups, and that's like almost like this person who's holding out for this, you know, this cup of love, but there's like around this person's like almost, they're like meditating, and they're holding out like for this one outcome, you know, they're going for. But on both sides of them, they have like reclamation and they have revolution. Which is just like the Tower and the Devil. Like, it's just like horrible toxicity and chaos and like destruction, you know. So it's kind of like Zelensky, you know. He's just like, he's like, everything is crashing and burning all around him, and he's just like, we're gonna be free, we're gonna hold on, we're not going anywhere, we're gonna hold on to this cup, and we're just gonna wait for it to pass, you know. And that's kind of what this guy's doing in the midst of all this chaos. And then we have the Warrior of Swords. So that's like the Two of Swords in the normal deck, and that's kind of like a card of blockage, and it's a card of dissonance, and it's a card of like dueling realities, and like not really seeing things as they are, and like not being in agreement about it, and being stuck and not having clarity about how to move forward. So it's just like, it's almost like there is this one person in the middle of all this mess who is seeing that and is holding out for it, while all around him there's just like chaos and drama, you know. But like all the like cards above it speak to this like happy ending, you know, and it's sort of like that's what this guy is sort of like holding out for. So like I think the whole, and you know, at the bottom of the deck there is like this stable foundation. So like I think the whole point of this reading, because again, like the eagle is the one that can like rise above the fray, you know, and this is the fray, you know. So it's just sort of like right now this guy is kind of outnumbered by the fray. Like that's the reality on the ground. But like I think the whole point of this is like just keep holding your vision, because it's actually, it's gonna work out. It's like the guy who's like, I'm building a cathedral that's gonna rise above all this crap, because everything's like a moment in time, and this is going to pass. So don't get just like bogged down by the drudgery of it. Like just keep holding your vision, because it leads to victory in the end. But it might be really hard to see that right now. That's kind of what I'm getting. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Queen of the Moon Oracle to pick the final card. Oh my gosh. Well, when I split the deck, I got extremes and I got release. So yeah, it's just like, it looks like there's just like a lot of toxicity and like false ideas that are being released right now. And so that's why everything is all crazy. So stay focused on yourself, hold your vision, work on yourself, meditate, take it easy, chill, let things unfold. That's probably your best strategy. And try not to engage the drama. All right. So I just shuffled it, and then again we got release again. So again, like, this is just a moment where this stuff is gonna have to just like be released. But like, keep your eye on the prize. This is assessing. And hold your vision, because this too shall pass.